and welcome to Fifth Down Territory, presented by StadiumRant. I am your main host at Lamb47. It's Tyler Lambo. Here's Bahuki Montana at Bahuki Montana. Then our new host here, Shane Carter at Shane Carter TX Texas, because he's a Cowboys representative. If you catch us on our live draft stream, you saw him spitting some facts over on that first night there. Kind of came in real clutch there, though. Seriously, we were all kind of sluggish towards the 4th hour mark. You came in there, you gave us some energy, some defibrillation, gave us some life. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that was a hell of a segment you put on. I was just honestly sitting back and listening. You had a lot of good information just ready to go, and yeah, we had been on for a while, and we were just kind of going through the motions a little bit at that point.
You know, I wasn't really expecting a second message from Tyler after that show, just because I wanted to just do the guest spot for the Cowboys, and I wanted to stay a little bit longer, which I was cool with. And that y'all were actually the 4th of 5 shows I did that night. I would pop in and out because like a lot of people that I connect with, they wanted me on to analyze some of the picks here and there. I did a Chargers show. I was on for a Cowboys spot after y'all. I was on the Broncos show. And I did a Defiant Takes nighttime show, which is one thing that I also contribute with the site as it's like growing in popularity. And so when Tyler reached out to me that they were looking for like a league wide show, and they liked what I brought, I was like, oh hell yeah, I'm down, absolutely. It's just I didn't expect y'all like it that much, just because I expected some like not necessarily pushback, but some people that think that like I talked over them when I wasn't trying to do that. I just had a lot more to say.
You came ready. Like, yeah, you were prepared. No, what's not to love about that?
Of course I'm prepared. Of course I'm prepared.
He said his name's on his bottle. He's got that shit right.
I got that as a gift. And it's by far my favorite cup.
Word up. Now we have our other new host here, Louis Stewart. It's I'm pretty sure your Twitter handle is at the L Stewart 503. Did I get that right off? Coming in clutch.
Now I'm a little afraid of you, man. That's kind of scary.
Oh yeah, no, that was stalkerish, wasn't it?
It really was. He's like size 13 shoe, favorite color.
Hey, to simplify it, we'll call you Lewart.
You're good,
Lewart.
Whatever you want, Shane. Also, I gotta let you guys know, I'm watching out for the company. I already took my shoes off, so if we need to boost views, I got the feet ready to go. I'll put it out there.
Coming with foot jokes, and we haven't started any NFL commentary. That's episode 2 of Fifth Down Territory. We're taking it where nobody else wants to really go. Louis' feet.
No one asked.
That's the premium. That's the premium membership.
Yeah, everybody. Yeah, like send a DM to our Twitter, and they'll hook you up.
Yeah, you got to pay with a credit card for that kind of content.
Yeah. I have an extra toe. Nobody wants to know this. I have an extra toe. So
that's awesome, and also kind of weird, but
kind of horrifying.
Yeah, everything's relevant here on Fifth Down. Everything's relevant.
We're keeping it unique. The things no other channel gives you.
All right,
11
so
toes.
that's actually it's a good segue.
Yeah, I don't know.
That was the only joke I wrote for this show.
No other show will give you 11 toes. I guarantee that.
Certainly not for free.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's actually a good segue. What we are giving away for free is this nice handy dandy George Kittle jersey here. We actually did the raffle already. And the winner is at franchise tag UK. You lucky son bitch. You get my George Kittle jersey. Never worn, so it's cool. But congratulations. Thank you for following, liking the post, and doing all the things, interacting with us. We love interacting with your account. So big shout out to the at franchise tag UK for winning the George Kittle giveaway jersey. And once I get enough ideas for a second giveaway, I will try and figure out something to give away for free again. Let's get on to a little bit of breaking news here. So Jordan Love, 1-year deal worth up to $22 million, 13.5 guaranteed. This is like in lieu of his 5th-year option, I'm pretty sure. So interesting there. Poona Ford to the Bills on a 1-year deal, and then 12 first-year options picked up from the 2020 draft class, which happens to be the fewest ever of franchise or the fifth year option. So, Blake, I'll start with you since there's some Bills news here. How do you feel about the Puna Ford edition?
That was it, like one of the top guys like on my wish list. Not quite D Hop level wish list, but D Hop wasn't a free agent. But it was definitely a spot of need that we didn't address. There was a lot of people speculating about us taking a defensive tackle in the draft, which we didn't. But we are because of us signing him today. He will not factor against the compensatory pick formula for either us or the Seahawks. And we had Tremaine Edmonds walk earlier this offseason. It was sad to see him go. He's a very unique talent. Plays sideline to sideline, massive wingspan, and he's still really young. I feel like there's, even though he's been in the leagues, he was 19 when he got drafted. There's probably the first year players, second year players who are still older than he is. With that being said, with him walking, we get an extra third round pick next year, in addition to a couple late rounders we picked up from moving back this past draft. So we're going to be going into next year's draft with 10 picks, and picked up a guy who's going to be between him and Daquan Jones is our one technique defensive tackles, and that was really an issue for us, was stopping the run specifically in the middle last year. And he's a big body. He's not that tall, but he's big boy, and he's proved that he can play in this league, and he's
uses that gravity thing
for us. And still have a couple more needs. And I'm hoping that Justin Houston and Yannick Ngakoue are next for us.
Yeah, no, I as a team that primarily likes to run up the A and B gap, I'm not really thrilled with your Puna Ford addition. Like you said, big body, low center of gravity, gonna be really hard to move off his spot. Good hands, good player. Probably got him on a veteran minimum type of deal too to come play in Buffalo and try and push for a championship. So, Shane, Louis, what do you guys think about the Jordan Love deal? It seems kind of weird to me. Like, what are your thought processes? Shane, you want to go first?
You have to think that this probably has something to do with them coming off a little bit of the Aaron Rodgers contract, just because the way you open up cap space is sometimes releasing players, trade them, and sometimes it's giving them extensions because you can spread that hit out throughout the year. And if I can give me a second, I can probably pull up Jordan Love's numbers for his contract, unless you already have that pulled up. Someone does.
It is. I don't have his rookie contract. I just have the deal that they signed. It's 22.5 and 13.5 guaranteed.
Right, I saw that. I'm looking more like at their cap space after the fact, just because he only really showed up really in one game last year, but it was really impressive. He had that nice touchdown across the middle to
Watson, right?
To Watson, exactly. And that really began Watson's late season run as one of the better rookie receivers in this class. And his numbers weren't like word breaking. He for the season last year was 14 of 21. He completed just under 70% of his passes, but his passer rate in that second half was one of the highest of, apparently. I just saw this. His second half in that game, he filled up for Aaron Rodgers, was one of the highest halves the Packers had all season in terms of overall QBR play. And with a team that is really looking to go towards the future, you look at a team that has a Watson, a Romeo Doubs, who really came on when he was out there on the field. They added 2 tight ends in the draft this year, which is insane that they really want to do that. But, one of the best things you can do to develop a quarterback in recent years is to have a really solid tight end and a really solid slot receiver. And they went out and got 2 tight ends who can really stretch the field with Luke Musgraves, depending on what his health looks like, and Tyler Croft from South Dakota State, he was my 6th tight end on my board when he was available. And they went and got both of them. It's kind of greedy, but whatever. And I like the move in terms of giving that confidence towards the future. I thought the move was a little bit premature just because he was still on that rookie deal that you really covet. But I think what it also does is it puts him in a position to where that if they want to move off him, they can. If he's because he's already a few years into his rookie deal. It also gives him the option of if they want to move on past this year, he ain't the guy. It allows him to do so.
Awesome, Louis. You have anything to add there on this Love situation?
I thought it was a bit unique, but I think the Packers, working in a smaller market, usually do some more unique moves, I think, than you would see other teams do. I like it because it works out well for both teams. Like Jordan couldn't have expected that 5th-year option. That's usually a higher salary year for rookies where they really start getting paid. So he takes a deal that's a little more total, drops that guarantee a little bit, and so it incentivizes him to perform, which I think is good. Put in the work this offseason. The only thing I really don't like for him right now is I personally don't think that Rodgers is a super good mentor. And so I wouldn't really expect that to have happened over the last 2 years. So when you look at that quarterback room, Danny Etling, who I'm sure most of us have never heard of.
He was a Patriot.
The only other guy in that room, and he's only 28. So you're talking about a 4-year span between him and Love. So, if it's going to be performance-based, I think you're really going to have to watch for them to bring in a vet QB to help him know when to develop, because you could almost incentivize like a hero ball mentality, which is something they definitely want to avoid with a young QB. So I would just be interested to see how they're going to kind of work around that incentivization structure and keep it team focused and not him focused.
Well, one thing neither you kind of like touched on, but like kind of touched on, I do think them going ahead and like, even though he was still the team was still like in a safe spot with them on his rookie deal, they went ahead and gave him this deal to kind of, I don't know, maybe assert him, to like kind of give him some more confidence. Like, hey, you're our guy. We're giving you this deal. We're working some money around. So like, you're our guy. Don't worry about it. Like giving him a little bit more confidence, a little bit like backing, a little bit more financial stability. Like he's still getting the 13.5 guaranteed. So like he doesn't have to worry about that now. Like he can go and play ball and try and develop and try and earn the rest of his money. I do understand what you're saying about the hero ball and the development, though. Is a really, really solid point. One last bit of breaking news here before we get into everything that we're going to talk about, but only 12 of the 5th-year options were picked up from the 2020 draft class. That was the fewest ever since the option became a thing. So does anybody remember if that was like a highly touted draft class beforehand, or like was it one of those like because I don't recall off the top of my head, but doesn't seem like a lot of first round hits, you know what I mean, or a lot of fits, I should say, not hits, fits.
I vaguely remember that one being kind of like this year's. People didn't want to be picking at the top unless you needed a quarterback, but they projected a lot of value like bottom of the first through mid of the second. So if I'm remembering correctly, I think a lot of people were trying to move back that year, but nobody really wanted to move up. I mean, because that was the year, I'm trying to remember what that draft class was.
It was the CeeDee Lamb, Justin Jefferson, Ayuk class. So like all three of them went late.
Because I think Ayuk was considered a reach at that time as well when he went in the first. He was like a projected second, I think. So
yeah, that sounds right. I think that was the Chase Young draft class. There we go.
Yeah,
Chase Young went 2 overall.
Really going to solidify like a lot of those options too. When you look at them, were linebackers. Like I think there were 5 linebackers or something from that class who didn't get picked up. Patrick Queen didn't. Zaven Collins maybe is the other one I'm thinking of.
Yep.
So
there was one more too.
Chason from the Jaguars, was he one from that year?
No, that was the next year, I believe.
Okay. But either way,
yeah,
you really see how the leadership.
Chason was in that draft class.
He was.
Yeah, he was picked by he was the Jags' second first round pick after CJ Henderson.
True. Yeah. Neither of which are really panning out all that well. Jason's good player. It's just it's a tough. It's one of those draft capital things that he might not ever get over the hump of.
I think
But
linebackers are one of those unique positions where it's so hard to live up to a first round tender on a linebacker. Like you really have to do a little bit of everything and kind of become a centerpiece for a defense. You don't have to be like a Luke Kuechly, but you have to be able to,
maybe like
I
a
don't know,
Fred
fill
Warner
gaps.
type.
Yeah, you have to be really versatile. And a lot of these young guys that come out, it's just such a hard role to fill. And I think that's why teams just don't see that first round tender as being so valuable anymore. It's when they can get it on a cornerback or an edge or one of those positions, a wide receiver like Jefferson.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I totally agree. Let's hope for a little bit better results from this year's draft class, though. So yeah, now we're gonna move on to overrated power rankings. It's our new set. So we are basically we have two sets of power rankings here: MMQB and Pro Football Network's power rankings post draft. Since we have the Pro Football Networks up here, we can just run off this one. So basically, what we're going to do is we're going to go over these power rankings. We're going to dispute them. And by the end of our dispute, we're going to have our own StadiumRant power rankings. And we'll drop that after the show on all our socials so you can get our thoughts. So I think the best practice here is maybe we just go 1 through 5, 5 through 10, just kind of debate. The 1 through 5 is probably pretty simple here. KC stays at the top. The Eagles had a great draft class, but as far as I'm concerned, you're not going to knock them off the top until you actually go and do it. So Chiefs, Eagles, Bengals to me over the Bills because I'm a Joe Burrow guy. Sorry, like I've seen more in the playoffs.
Not offended.
Not offended. You shouldn't be offended. It's hard to be offended when it's Joe Burrow. Here's where I want to throw up in my mouth, but the gangrene is here at 5. I don't think any one of us agree with that. Shane, you looked pretty guttural at that one. Hit me with some stuff about the Jets here.
So the Jets roster reminds me of what the Rams were before they got Matt Stafford and what the Bucs were before they got Tom Brady. They were one of those teams that's literally a quarterback away. But I don't see Aaron Rodgers in the same light coming out of Green Bay the way that I saw Stafford coming away from Detroit. I thought he saw plenty of himself left to play. The same thing I thought with Tom Brady coming out of New England. I thought he saw plenty of to play. Aaron Rodgers, I saw an up and down season from him coming off back-to-back MVP years in which he didn't look bad, but I don't think he was one of the 5 best quarterbacks in the NFC at the very least. I think this is an overreaction to the fact that they finally got the quarterback situation addressed. I love the moves they made across the team itself. I really liked the sign of Alan Lazard, bringing in a familiar face for Aaron Rodgers to team up with the likes of a Garrett Wilson, who I think Garrett Wilson is probably going to end up being a star in this league. They're starting to fix the offensive line a little bit. They turned down Mekhi Becton's 5th-year option because he can't stay healthy. The man has got the knees of someone 50 years older than him. That's why they didn't want to get rid of Dwayne Brown, who's their right now is their slate as their starting left tackle. They have George Fant. Elijah Barrett-Tucker is becoming one of the best guards in the game, but he can split out to tackle if you want him to because he has that kind of versatility. And while this team really is ready to compete, at least for the playoffs, I don't even think they're one of the 5 best teams in the AFC just yet. I think Kansas City is the best team in the league just because they have the best quarterback. You can make a lot of mistakes with that roster just because you have the best quarterback. Bengals, I think, are a better team. The Bills, I think, are a better team. I would put the Ravens above the Jets just because and even that's like a quarterback thing. Why I do think Lamar Jackson at this stage is better than Aaron Rodgers is. That might be, that might be controversial. I don't give a damn.
Not here, not to me.
I think, and this is a conditional. I think a healthy Tua makes the Dolphins a better team than the Jets. I would even say, I
think Mike White even puts them in the same conversation.
Yeah, I would
with the talent they have. I'm sorry, with the talent that Miami has on both sides of the football, it's right. Frustrating. But
I even have the Jags ahead of the Jets.
Me too.
I think the Jets right now. I think that you can make the argument the Jets are one of the 7 best teams, and they would be in the playoffs. I like their team right now from an offense and defensive standpoint better than I like the Chargers. I know the Chargers are a popular pick. The Raiders, I think, not much of them.
No.
there's a, like the Steelers are kind of like one of those like questionable picks just because I respect the hell out of Mike Tomlin. I think they did a lot of good moves to make
I
Kenny
like
Pickett
their
better.
draft a lot.
They
Yeah.
to me the Steelers had the best draft in my opinion.
I would agree with that.
But I also like the moves they made in free agency, like in Isaac Seumalo to play guard, and they solidified their offensive line by getting Jones from Georgia to play left tackle. So I would have them above the Jets. I think this is again an overreaction just because they have a future Hall of Famer at quarterback. But you can't convince me they're a top 5 team in the NFL just yet. You can't even convince me they're a top 5 team in the AFC, even with Rodgers at quarterback.
Louis, you look like you're dying to say something over there.
Yeah, I mean, my biggest thing is I think that what the Jets were doing last year worked, and I think they're tooling it too much to Rodgers, right?
Mhm.
So instead of one of these systems like the Buccaneers built something, I think that was good. Same thing with the Rams, and then they brought somebody in and had them play that system. I think the Jets are really reverting back to what the Packers did that didn't work. I thought they reached really hard in the draft. I did not like the Will McDonald pick at all.
I wasn't a fan of value personally.
I don't
like
the
player.
I don't necessarily have a lot of great confidence in that line. And Rodgers is getting up there in age. And I definitely, so like even from whatever perspective you want to look, from a straight utility perspective, from a fantasy perspective, I think this is bad development for Garrett Wilson because they brought in all of Rodgers' favorite targets. So, I mean, I understand what Shane was saying. Like, I like that Rodgers will have some familiarity there, but I think it's going to detract from Wilson's development because I don't know if he's going to get number 1 looks in this offense. And I think he has clear number 1 talent. So to me, I mean, Jets are borderline top 10, but the AFC is just so stacked. Like this move 2 years ago. Yeah. This move now, I don't even know if they're a top 2 team in their own division. Bills and Dolphins. And then it's not like the Patriots are bad. So, I mean, you're not even talking about like a guaranteed 6 wins at that point in division where some of these weaker teams, I don't know.
Speaking of division, Bahuki, hit me with your Jets thoughts. And also let's sprinkle in before we do that, the 6 through 10 here. And who of these 5 would you put in above the Jets in the 5th spot? So we got San Fran at 6, the Cowboys at 7, Miami at 8, Jacksonville at 9, and Baltimore at 10. Bahuki, go.
Most of those teams. I love San Francisco. That they hope Trey Lance stays healthy. If they didn't have the quarterback issue, we'd be talking about them and the Eagles a lot differently. I mean, between CMC and Deebo Samuel. Same thing. Same thing goes for a lot of those teams. I hope Lamar stays healthy. I hope Tua stays healthy. Who are the other teams?
It was Dallas and Jacksonville.
I like Jacksonville too. Yeah, and I don't know. Part of me is biased, having played in a division for so long with the Dolphins and the Jets. But in a nutshell, I mean, they are as teams what we saw last year. They both have like 2 seasons where they either start really well and then collapse, or start really bad and then go on a run at the end of the year. But ultimately, their season ends the same way every single year with disappointment. And for a long time, that was the Bills too. But then we got Josh Allen, and things have changed a little bit. Maybe that'll change, but I don't know. This looks to me a lot like it did with Brett Favre last year, or not last year, but years ago. And there was a lot of interest for in the Jets, and they got off to a pretty good start. And then he had some injury concerns, and then nothing really became of it. They have a lot of talent. I'm not a fan of the offensive coordinator. I'm having a brain fart right now.
Hackett.
Hackett.
I mean, the dude's name is literally Hack. Like it's in his name. He's a hack.
He was a Buffalo Bills offensive coordinator years ago, and And everyone was all high on the Broncos last year, and I was telling you this is not going to work.
Dude, calm down.
And you're like, yeah, I disagree for this reason, and this reason, and I'm like, all right, I'm just gonna sip my tea and watch how this plays out. And that was a dumpster fire.
Yeah,
I'm not saying
this
I'm not
blew up.
saying the Jets are going to be as bad as the Broncos were, because I think it's pretty fucking hard to be that bad. But yeah, like Louis was just saying, this AFC is so stacked, and
Yeah, it's not Tom
and
Brady's
but
AFC anymore.
but both of the and Tom Brady and Matt Stafford went to the NFC and did what they did. They did not come to the AFC and do what they did. And the AFC where it's at now is not where the AFC was 2, 3, 4 years ago. It's and whoever makes it to the Super Bowl wins the Super Bowl these next 2, 3, 4 years. Like, they will have earned it. And so with all that being said, I have a hard time putting the Jets ahead of any of those 5 teams that you listed until they really prove it on the field to me. And I'm not, and I say that now, and getting off to a hot start will be a good start, but winning 4, 5, 7 games is a good start, but nobody clinches a playoff berth with 4 to 7 wins. Talk to me in December, and and if I'm wrong, I'm wrong, but I just don't see, I see their ceiling as a wild card team, and I expect them to lose in the first round. Maybe they get one playoff win, depending on what their matchup looks like. But
So I
sorry, you
I
can go
think
ahead. I've been talking for a
I
minute.
I think one of the teams, so out of those 5 teams after the Jets, there, the 49ers, the Cowboys, the Dolphins, the Jaguars, and the Ravens. The team that the team that I see with the least amount of ifs and the least amount of question marks around it, it's the Jaguars. I think the Jaguars
I like
belong in that
Jags.
in that 5th spot there. I don't see any that there. Trevor Lawrence is clearly the best quarterback out of that group. I'm sorry, like, he is. He's the least likely to get injured, best passer, and he can do all the mobility. He has 3 excellent weapons in the receiving group. Then he's got Evan Ingram, Travis Etienne. They had Tank Bigsby. And then you look onto the defensive side, and they have Miles Murphy, which they acquired late in the first round. Heck of a pick. They have the other Josh Allen, who's a certified freak on the defensive side.
He's a sicko.
Yeah,
It's
dude's
a
a
Josh
problem.
Allen thing.
Yeah, that definitely. If you name your kid Josh Allen, he's probably going to be a sicko. So, in a good way, people. I was on a roll. Where was I at? Jags, Trevor Lawrence.
Jags are. You were saying the Jags are good.
Yeah, I know. It's baffling me so much that I can't
Calvin
keep my train
Ridley.
of thought rolling. Calvin Ridley. Defense. Trayvon Walker. There we go. Number 1 overall pick last year. All these are freak athletes from the edge and from the second level. All of them are really good at getting at the quarterback. All of them add versatility. I think that's clear cut 5th team right there. After that, I'd put San Francisco. Baltimore would probably be there. The Cowboys are going to cowboy. I'm sorry. That's just what they're going to do. And Tua he scares me. One more bad hit, you're out of the NFL. And I do like Mike White. I do think that they could probably etch out 9 wins with him, because they did it last year with Teddy Bridgewater and
Skylar Thompson.
Skylar Thompson. Come on, who's that? Like, throwing the ball up Tyreek Hill, closing his eyes. But
25-year-old rookie.
Yeah. So yeah, that's kind of how I kind of classify those. Blue, you want to get in here and
I have such a different opinion on the Jags than you
Yeah, I
guys
see
do.
his face.
Wow.
Okay, we're here
I'm
for
way
it.
off. All right.
Yeah,
so
this is what we're here for.
let's talk about. So I'm going to talk about some things I liked, right? I like the Ernest Johnson ad. I think he's a crazy underrated running back. And with ETN's injury last year, I love that plug and play. Big Doug Peterson guy. I think he was a great ad for them last year. I think he's going to keep doing that. Obviously, Trevor Lawrence is ascending in this AFC hierarchy. My concerns, left tackle is going to be a rookie. So I think their schedule is going to play a big part in where I see them in this ranking. Because let's say, I can't remember who their offensive tackle, their left tackle was supposed to be.
Cam Taylor.
It's supposed to be Cam Robinson. He's gonna be suspended, but I don't know yet if Walker Little is gonna be left tackle or if it's gonna be Anton Harrison, just because both those guys played both spots. They might feel more comfortable with Walker Little, who's already played both spots, and rather than putting a rookie on Trevor Lawrence's blind side, it'll come down to camp.
That's a really good point, and I think that would be their better move. But say that their starting left tackle suspended for 6 games, and they do end up having to lean on that rookie in that spot. I could really see those first 6 games not going the way they would want, just off of a protection standpoint. Like maybe you can't run as much, put your running back out in the flat as much because they're having to chip. Like you might have to adjust how dynamic that offense can be. I also don't love their cornerback room. Or really their secondary at that much at all. So you're going to really have to be comfortable probably getting into some shootouts. So, I like him in the top 10. I don't know if I like him at 5. I definitely don't like him over the Niners. Like straight up Niners, Jags, I'm taking Niners 9 out of 10 times on that.
Who's the quarterback?
Yeah, I was just going to say, like,
I don't think it matters. I don't think it matters.
You want me to go start? Like, I can't do it.
I
don't think I'm winning.
I mean, I think Trey Lance is going to be there to start, if nothing else. I like Brock Purdy more. One of my old college roommates is a big Niners guy, and he's all on the Brock Purdy train. But I think it's functional. I think the offense functions without elite quarterback play. And, I mean, I just don't think the Jags defense is going to be stopping that many people. Like, I like Trayvon Walker. I like Josh Allen. I think Josh Allen is super underrated in the defensive conversation almost all the time. I just don't think they have what it takes, though, to stop some of these really tough AFC teams. I think they take the South. I think clear cut the best team there. I don't think that's a debate, and that's coming from me as a Texans fan. I just don't see them. I think maybe it'll be a repeat of this last year. Maybe they squeak out one nice win at home, and then kind of like out in the cold against some of these elite teams.
I would also put, I know this one in the rankings, like another team that I would put above the Jets just because I know who they are. And it surprised me to say I'd put Detroit above the Jets. I love what the Lions have done, especially like under Dan Campbell. I've loved the career resurgence of Jared Goff. I don't hate them taking Gibbs at 12 just because that's the way their offense functions. I actually liked a lot of the draft picks. They have probably the most complete, if not the best overall offensive line. Their pass rush really improved last year with the addition of Aiden Hutchinson. Losing Jeff Okudah hurt, but they were able to recoup their losses in the secondary. And and what's now a wide open NFC North, I don't really consider the Vikings that much of a threat because they were an offensive team with no defense last year. They were a team that was in shootouts every single time against teams they should obliterate. We saw them against superior teams. They got waxed like a new candle, and that's why I think in the North right now I would put them above all 3 of those teams. I would put them in consideration was one of the 10 best teams going into the season.
I don't disagree with that at all. The only my biggest gripe with Detroit's draft is only value on day 1. They came back on day 2 and shut me the hell up though with Laporta, Branch, Hooker. You get 3 players like that, and then add on to your first day with Gibbs and Jack Campbell. Those are pretty much 5 day 1 starters as far as I'm concerned. You take away the positions. If you get 5 starters out of a draft, you're probably pretty happy. And if 2 of them or 3 of them happen to be high-end starters, your teams get looking really, really good after that. Now, let's just kind of think with throw the LB linebacker first-round conversation out the window. Think about Jack Campbell and Aiden Hutchinson just, even standing next to each other. those two dudes are literally just scary people. Like I don't know. I feel like that's a perfect way to kind of solidify your second level. They have a really good secondary, and that also adds to the pass rush. Oh wait, we got Aaron over here. He is
I'm loving Aaron's comments.
yeah. Here we are.
I agree,
12.
Aaron. I love your comments about the Broncos and the Jets being like the same thing. I'm very much getting the same vibe.
I don't
Like-
agree with the Broncos comment just yet. I understand.
Just
love
like the
Sean
Broncos when they
Payton.
got Russ.
I think it's similar as far as media hype goes. I don't think they're going to be near as bad as the Broncos were last year, but I think this whole holy grail conversation where it's like this is the only thing they needed, very much in doubt for me. And I think they gave up too much for Rodgers. That's going to be a first next year, almost guaranteed. And
But so let's think about this. What if don't wish this on him, but what if Rodgers gets injured? I'm sorry, but let's say what if he plays 65% of the snaps? It's still a first, and he gets injured, or they just don't perform as well, and they are a Broncos situation, and you're giving up a top 5 pick. Like, you know what I mean? That is ultimately way too much to give up for Aaron Rodgers if it happens to be that high of a pick. I don't necessarily expect that, but it's something that you definitely need to watch out for. Like, just probably a little too much from the Jets, but right this second, media wise, they won the trade. But like,
especially with Nathaniel Hackett at offensive coordinator, I mean, he's proven he can work with Rodgers and nothing else. So if Rodgers does go down, expect that offense to look abysmal. Because if he couldn't make it work with Russ and a decent receiving core out in Denver, I'm not.
It's just going to be sad with Zach Wilson.
It's just going to be like the Breece Hall show.
It's going to look like I'd rather go watch an XFL game, which is tough. Not that that's a bad product or anything. I'm just
I've been working those XFL games. It's actually a lot of fun to watch.
I'm not pooping on it. I'm just level of
I get it.
What's it called? Level athlete. All right,
Dwayne. So if you're watching, we are open for sponsorships
for sure. Absolutely. You are literally one of the most hardworking people in the industry. I don't know how you're in as many things as you are. It's like. It's completely insane. You never stop. So let's kind of keep moving on here. Push through. So 11 through let's do 11 through 20 here. Detroit, Seattle, New York, the Saints, the Chargers, Carolina, Minnesota, Cleveland, Pittsburgh, New England. I have many gripes with this middle tier here. To be honest.
Can you share your screen so we can look at it? Is that
sorry.
Yeah, you're good. I just it's better to do 11 through 20 if we have like a visual. And I love the moves Carolina made. I just think we're anointing Bryce Young, the next star quarterback a little soon. I actually think that Pittsburgh's underrated. I think the Giants are overrated. I'm sorry, I know there's a lot of Giants fans out there. The Giants have a great roster, a great coaching staff, but you only go as far as your quarterback will take you. I know they made the runs before with Eli Manning, but they had elite defenses in those years, and the Giants do not have an elite defense. And Daniel Jones, I call him two nickel Josh Allen because I don't want to call him dime store. And last year was his best season by far. We threw 17 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, and that was what they qualified as good enough for $40 million a year. All right, and I ain't gonna poop on a dude for making his money. Go out and make your money. I stay out of other people's pockets because they stay out of mine. But you can't. you can't convince me. You just can't. You can't convince me that he is such a good quarterback and an elevation in that system that they're worth like being one of the top 15 teams or the top 16 teams in the league, even with most of their roster returning from last year.
So I totally agree with you on the Danny Dimes is overpaid notion. I do not think they should have given him that contract. I honestly think that them even considering a trade up to where like the Cardinals were for Richardson would have been a good idea in Daboll's hands. I don't know. Considering using draft capital to pay for that instead of actual real money capital. So my thing about the Giants though is if they come and play the same level of intensity and like together and really really hard coaching that they kind of had last year, I do think they're going to end up with double digit wins again. I do think they're going to be one of those teams that's just like not sexy, not awesome, but like consistently there and bugging you. A team like Dallas is flashy. I mean, they've had a good offseason. Don't get me wrong, Shane, but like how many times does it happen? Like you guys have a great offseason and then it just for whatever reason, whatever universal reason, the Cowboys end up having a tough season. Like just a non-consistent effort.
To be fair, the Cowboys had a crap offseason last year, and they had one of the more enjoyable seasons like that I can remember.
You just never like I don't know. You just never know where you're when there's hype on them, they're not going to show up. When there's nothing on them, they're going to win 12 games. I just feel like right now I feel like with Dayball, like he just kind of adds that a little bit more consistency to the Giants than maybe a team like Dallas in the top 10. What do you guys say?
The pattern that I'm more like kind of in tune to doesn't really have as much good reason other than it exists. Is no team has been a repeat an NFC East champion in like over 15 years or something.
Going on 20.
20 going on 20. So every year, like we think we have that division so mapped out, and then there's chaos. Whether the division's really good or the division's really bad, it's like one of the most impossible divisions to predict. They're all big markets, so it always turns into must-watch TV. And I think the one thing we can agree on is not the Commanders this year in that division. And so that tells me it's got to be the Cowboys or the Giants to win that division, which sounds crazy because the Eagles look so good right now, and I did really like their draft, and I like this Georgia pipeline that they're building. But I don't know, and I'm a sucker for Dable and Shane. They're out of the Bills front office. I like what they're doing there. I agree they gave Daniel Jones too much money, but they kind of played themselves. I feel like they played themselves out of any other option, really. I mean, they could have taken Hooker or Levis, I guess, if they sat back and waited, but you didn't know what you were going to get there. The Bills were able to kind of move up and swap picks with the Bengals and then trade up from there to get Josh Allen. I feel like them playing themselves into the playoffs and winning that playoff game, they kind of handcuffed themselves in that scenario. But I'm not buying the Giants is a completely fraudulent team. I think now they're in a situation kind of like the Dolphins and Jets are. They had no expectations last year, and now there's going to be expectations, and we'll see how they deal with that. And that's not always an easy thing. Sorry, you can go ahead.
How about a team like Seattle? Do we think with what they've done the offseason, the draft additions, do you think they sneak up from 12 to one of those spots that we're not so sure of? The Jets spot, maybe not 5, but like in the top 10?
I think they're appropriately placed.
Seattle is real interesting to me just because they re-solidified their secondary with the addition of Devin Witherspoon, teaming him up with Tariq Woolen, Woolen's going to be their number one cornerback, and a real consistent play from their safeties. I think Pete Carroll's trying to recreate the Legion of Boom, but like maybe with like not necessarily hard hitters, but guys who can play the run and create turnovers. That's kind of like the theme of Woolen and Witherspoon and guys like that. Adding Jackson Smith and Jigba was a value pick because they already had Lockett, they already had DK Metcalf, but you add JSN, that's what people call him, and inside, it allows you to use Lockett more as that Z receiver if you want to use him as a deep threat. Jackson Smith and Jigba, who I am a huge player comp guy. I saw his play, I saw everything he did, and he looks so much on the field like a Jarvis Landry that when you put him in that slot role as the guy who will catch the ball, who will create separation off the line of scrimmage, that's going to be really effective. And if we're seeing right now the better late than never, but still relevant surge of Geno Smith in an NFC conference, which right now, like outside of the top 3 teams, it's pretty much wide open for the next couple spots. Why can't they jump one of those spots? I really don't think they're that far behind for being one of the better teams in the NFC. Because for me, the best team in the NFC is the Niners, and the Cowboys. Eagles kind of like they play. They can cancel each other out for whatever reason. Like if the Eagles always win in Philly, the Cowboys always win in Dallas. So it's always like who ends up with a better record. There's never like a consensus better team between the two. It's really frustrating. But I talked this with my guy Joe Castro, who covers the Eagles, that there's never really a consistent threat out of both these teams because one year one's up, the other one's down. And so this would actually be a good time for Seattle, who I think really improved the roster really well this offseason. I think they could easily still up in as like the 4th, potentially 3rd best team in the NFC.
Louis, what do you think there?
I think I would like to see the Seahawks be more aggressive. I love their first round. And obviously you have Jamal Adams coming back, who is a good blitzer. We won't get into monikers. He's a good blitzer. And well, maybe not needing to add as much defensive line help as some people thought. I did not like running back in the 2nd round. I thought Kenneth Walker played really well last year. I don't know why. Pete Carroll has this tendency, I think, he wants to create an earn it mentality on the Seahawks, but he almost does it by like dropping the confidence off of these guys. I think there should be value in good performance year 1. I would have liked to see almost maybe trade that for a good veteran for some of these guys. I don't love that Poona Ford went to the Bills. I thought he was a really good underrated player, which was a great pickup for them. But I think you're going to see this team be pretty bad against the run again. And I like cornerbacks who can play the run and prevent like a home run. But we're not talking about cornerbacks keeping you under 4 yards per carry. Like they don't get to the ball fast enough. So I think they're still going to struggle there. And also, I really liked Shane's point about the surge of Geno Smith. And I think we'd all like to see where that ceiling is. If he hasn't hit it yet, I think they're clearly a top 3 team. But I would like to see him continue strong play. And I think they have a chance.
Let me paint you guys a pretty little picture right now, right? So it's about, I don't know, late January. We're all turning on the TVs. It's about 7:30. Probably go tune into the NFC Championship game. And we see Geno Smith versus Jared Goff in a Lions v Seahawks matchup. How what are we in the Twilight Zone? Where what dimension did I just walk into when I turned my TV on?
I think you should place that bet right now because you'll be a rich man.
Where's the game played at?
Supposed to be played in Detroit, but the arena was burned down, so it's being played in Arizona.
Oh man, no, I see a serious world where like that could be a thing, only because of the topsy-turviness of the NFC. I feel like like you said, it's wide open. It's Philly, it's San Fran. One of those teams doesn't have a quarterback. The other one has been. There's just this curse on the division that the team can't just stay consistent. So I don't see them. I like Dallas, but again, I have this thing with Dallas, so like
everyone's
fall
got
off.
a thing with Dallas.
Yeah, it happens. They haven't I haven't seen you guys win a playoff game in my lifetime. It's tough.
It happened last year. It happened again 3 years ago.
I wasn't gonna say anything.
NFC Championship.
Are you 6 months old?
No, I'm not.
Then they
I know they get associated with losing of recent history, but come on, man,
No,
they haven't been.
You're correct.
They haven't been to a championship game,
right?
There we go. That's what I meant.
The NFC Championship. You said NFC Championship.
What's up?
You kind of broke it. You said championship. Like, did you mean Super Bowl?
I just said. When was their last NFC Championship game?
Oh God, it's 25 years ago.
1995.
No, it was the 96 season, 96, 97.
Yeah,
so it's going on. It's almost 30.
1.
That's before I was born. So
I was 1. So yeah,
no,
I was right. I have my wires twisted up. Call me crazy. I hate the Saints here at 14. I know they're a consistent team, but like, I don't see. I put the Steelers over the Saints all day every day for me there.
I want to see what was the Saints' record since Sean Payton has retired, because they were consistent before, and I had Sean Payton very much in that. Mike Tomlin, like, give that man anything and he's going to make it work.
Yeah, 9-10
wins. I don't have
guy.
any confidence in their new coach, and I think the quarterback quandary that they're having right now.
I like Derek Carr in the NFC South, especially this NFC South.
You think so?
Yeah, I mean, the quarterbacks he's playing against are going to be Desmond Ridder. We don't know. Bryce Young, we don't know. Baker Mayfield, we don't know. I have confidence that Derek Carr behind him, I think, is a much more improved offensive line with the Saints got, and they added Chris Olave last year, who looks like going to be another really good receiver for them. Michael Thomas is going to become the wide receiver 2 out of the slot. I still like, they added Juwan Johnson, who was a convert receiver tight end who really broke out last year. They gave him that new contract. I actually like the Saints potentially to win the South. It's all going to depend on how good Bryce Young looks in that offense, because the Panthers did a great job of refortifying that offensive line over the last 2 years, adding weapons like Adam Thielen and Miles Sanders and obviously Jonathan Mingo from Ole Miss. So I think just looking at them, I know Atlanta has a lot of flashy players, but I got to see more from Desmond Ridder before I could buy into them. I think the Saints right now, just on paper, I think the Saints right now may be at least the most complete team in the South. We'll see how it plays out.
I don't think that's a debate. I think their division to lose. I agree.
I don't think Derek Carr will play as well.
I think Panthers are the wild card. Like they could threaten them. I like their pieces, but it's just a lot of question marks. I think if you're there, if you have to make a pick and feel good about it, I agree. It's got to be the Saints.
I think that team rides guys on Michael Thomas this year, because Derek Carr is the kind of guy who needs elite wide receiver 1 help. So if Michael Thomas has that kind of injury history that he's had lately, and if he doesn't play that full season, man, I could see Derek Carr having potentially. I like the offensive line upgrade because I think the Raiders is a bottom 5 right now. So I'm very worried for our friend Jimmy G, but I don't know. Derek Carr is not the most accurate guy, and he's definitely not the most mobile guy in the pocket. I think he plays well when he's got a guy who can play a good 50-50 ball. And Michael Thomas is that guy. I don't know that Chris Olave is yet. So we'll see how that offense. And Alvin Kamara is up in the air. So we'll kind of have to see how all that shakes out.
I totally get the thinking there. Like they definitely. I love their additions in the trenches during the draft. I liked Breesy. I liked who else? Isaiah Foskey. I really liked Foskey's tape. Thought he was a really good addition there. So they're remaking their defensive line. They've always had a stout interior offensive line. It really just comes back down to the quarterback. I didn't really love what I watched in Derek Carr last year. I know his offensive line was not great, but his weapons were probably a little bit better if Michael Thomas is healthy, right? Depending that. But again, let's if that's what you're relying on for your season to go well, let's remember he's played like 2 games, or he hasn't been quite as effective in quite some time. Let's you know what I'm saying? So
I won't say that Aaron Rodgers and Derek Carr won't be good or bad this year, but I love the situation Derek Carr is going into with the Saints in the NFC South. That more than I love what Aaron Rodgers is going into in the Jets in the AFC East. Because the AFC East, I could see all 4 of those teams making the playoffs. I think they all have like rosters that are good enough to make it. There's a lot of contingencies on how the quarterback in New England's going to play, how the health of their quarterback in Miami's going to play. And the Bills are going to win the East. It's going to happen. But I in an NFC conference, which I can only see 3 teams that would definitely be Super Bowl contenders. My Cowboys being one of them, the Eagles being the other one, the Niners being the other one, regardless of who's quarterback. That I don't know what Shanahan is smoking, but he puff passes it on the next quarterback, and it just seems to be working. And outside of them, I think Derek Carr is in a good position to at least make a playoff push. I don't know about that next game if you were to make it out, say the wild card round, if they were to win a divisional game.
Yeah, no, I totally understand that. Another team I think that could kind of fall off here. The Vikings. I don't think they've done enough on defense. They prioritized offense again with their first round pick. I like Addison. I think that's a smash spot for fantasy purposes. But as far as playing football, you gotta have 11 dudes on the other side of the football field to go and stop people from scoring. I just don't see the adjustments being made currently in the secondary or in the pass rushing group. I just don't see it.
I think that's a good pick. The Vikings have a really weird pattern where they'll win 13, 14 games, and then they'll win 7 or 8 games. Like every other year, they bounce back and forth. I don't get it, but yeah, that's been the pattern for a while now, and the team doesn't seem to trust Kirk Cousins. They've been shopping him and trying to look for their next option. Dalvin Cook might get released before June 1st. June 1st is a big day because that's like the start of the new fiscal year, and that's when everyone's like dead cap hits. They think that Alfred Mattinson can replace him. He can't. Yeah, I think that's a good pick for the Vikings to have a down year this year.
Yeah, I think Pittsburgh's too low on this list. We kind of glossed over it a little bit earlier. I know the AFC's tough, but I mean the North is probably, I don't know, the second weakest division of the 4. Like even with Lamar coming back, we don't know what type of injury he could possibly sustain. If he stays healthy, the Ravens are probably going to be a force, but Cleveland, we don't know what's up with Deshaun Watson. So I like consistency. I like coaches who focus on the hard work and like playing on the margins. I mean, I'm a Pats fan. It's Bill Belichick type of stuff, but I would say Mike Tomlin's like the 21st century version of that. And he's just, I don't know, he's with the vibe. He's on the heartbeat of the league. And I just don't think he's going to have a losing season. So I'd put him a little bit higher with the additions they've made over the offseason.
I have the Steelers like one game in or out either way. I don't think they're always like on the cusp, whether they're in or out. That was played just well enough to stay in that race. I definitely don't. It's so hard because you just look around at so many talented teams in the AFC. Like imagining a world where like the Browns don't make it or the Steelers don't make it is hard. But I mean, like the Ravens and Bengals feel like locks to me for that playoff seeding. So, and I mean, you have to look around at the Dolphins and Jets and Bills. One has to come out of the South. Like it's just, I don't know. It's a tough. This is where it gets really ambiguous. You get down to that low teens, early 20s.
Whew. That's some hot steam.
The only way that
right
happens
there.
The only way that happens is if Justin Jefferson gets suspended or something. I love Addison. Addison was my top-rated wide receiver, but he ain't gonna outproduce arguably the best receiver in the league.
KJ Osborne's gonna take a step up too. I think. I like KJ Osborne.
I think the Addison addition hurts his stock because they have Hawkinson as well. It depends what happens with Cook. If they downgrade the running game there, then I could see Osborne's role kind of being the same or not being cut as much. But if they have Cook, they have Hawkinson, Addison, Jefferson. Like, yeah, you have Osborne in the slot, but I'd imagine they play Hawkinson more like in the slot and outline, not in line. They were doing that a lot more towards the end of the year last year. Aaron does not think the Ravens are a lock. I mean, yeah, the turf over there at what is it? What's the name of their stadium? I don't know what it is, but they got some tough turf. They need to switch that to grass because everybody blows their ACLs out over there in Baltimore. I don't know what it is.
Yeah, Baltimore's success really does kind of hinge on whether or not Lamar gets hurt or not, which is too bad just because I think he's one of the best quarterbacks in the game. I love the addition of Odell Beckham if just because they needed that third guy to take pressure off of the running game because last year Mark Andrews, again, their tight end, was their go-to guy. I like Odell in this offense at least just because he's coming off injury as like a slot guy because that allows you to play Zay Flowers as your Z receiver. That your deep threat guy, the guy who can take the top off the defense in the second level, and Rashad Bateman, who actually had a really nice season before he got hurt as your X. I like the Ravens in theory as right now. I have them as like a borderline playoff team, borderline team that doesn't make it, kind of like in that 7, 8, 9 seed kind of range. I respect the hell out of John Harbaugh, and that defense always plays good. You can never really count the Ravens out. Kind of like that you can't count Mike Tomlin out until the final week of the season either.
And a new coordinator for them as well on the offense who's going to actually bring in the passing game. I agree.
Yeah, and hopefully he actually evolves Lamar Jackson's game to something like so we can actually stop hearing people say, "Oh, well, he can't throw the football." Huh? You can't throw a football. He can throw a football. Like he don't. I hate that narrative. Because his accuracy may not be his strength, but the dude has an absolute cannon, and I've seen him feather passes before on the run and do things other people simply cannot.
You just have to go back and watch that Dolphins game. I think it was the first game of his MVP year. I mean, he was slinging it that game, and it was Jordan Love record for Green Bay Packers.
Whew.
Let me pull up their schedule.
I'm gonna go 9-8, I believe.
In the NFC, I could buy that.
I mean, I happen to like Matt LaFleur. I mean, he hasn't shown me anything not to like really yet until it comes to the.
I'll say 8 and 9. I'll go the other side of it.
8 and 9.
But I like 9 and 8, 8 and 9.
Yeah, I would say their floor is probably 6 wins would be my guess, and then their ceiling is probably 11 if Jordan Love really takes a step. They probably play almost all of the elite NFC teams, I think. What I would consider to be that. And they play the Eagles. They have to play the Dolphins. They play the Lions, who I really like this year. So I think you're kind of building in, I don't know. I'd say somewhere. I think if Jordan Love leads them to a winning season, that's a good starting point for him.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think the roster is super talented. Like Shane was saying, they added a couple tight ends. I really would have liked to see a better wide receiver because
Jaden Reed's okay. I don't love his. I didn't love where he went. I thought he was a little lower on the board. Should have went a little later, but I mean, obviously they liked him for some reason. So
yeah, I think you'll see
that might push out Dobbs a little bit. Sorry,
I think Christian Watson regresses some. I do think Aaron was really putting some passes on the money to him, and I don't know. Love will be able to recreate that some. We've seen him have some really nice touch on the ball. Everybody likes to go back to that sideline throw where he goes right over the defender's fingertips to the corner. So he's got the talent. It'll just be he'll have to play against people game planning him. And that game where he came in for Rodgers didn't happen.
Sorry, I was reading the comment for the Ravens.
No, you're good. I get it. I was reading it too. I was like kind of reacting to it. I do think Dobbins is going to return healthy this year. I think the second year kind of off the ACL tear is definitely going to be better for him. He can hopefully be more consistent. I've loved what they've done from an offensive standpoint. You have Bateman, who hopefully if he can stay healthy, that's a really good X receiver. You add OBJ, who can be your top dog, and then Zay Flowers is kind of your slot Z receiver. And kind of like your Tyler Lockett, Tyreek Hill mold or, esque type of player. Then you got Mark Andrews there. I really like Isaiah Likely as kind of another move tight end. So yeah, I really love their pieces over there for the first time in a long time. I feel like they're more than one dimensional. So yeah, I think the Ravens are more of a lock than apparently Aaron does. We got another comment here. Predictions on CJ. You know what, Louis? I'm gonna let you hit this because you're a Texans guy.
Yeah. So
what's up, Luke?
I've been seeing the over under. So CJ was actually my QB1 in the draft. I'm pretty happy with the way everything fell, especially just over Bryce Young. I like the accuracy for Stroud in the new offensive system a lot. One thing you have to think about, Sasha, is they have a brand new offensive coordinator, brand new head coach, and a rookie quarterback. So you're going to see a lot of growing pains those first 8 games, probably, if not more. So looking at the lines that are out there, which I can't remember what they were. They seem super high to me. I would take the under on both of those. I think the Texans have a good season if they net 7 wins. That would kind of be right around where I would like to see them go, especially because I think the Titans are going to be the worst team in the league this year. One unpopular opinion. I think they're going to be bad. I think CJ is going to – I like that.
Yeah, that makes you happy.
Yards. If you look at that West Coast kind of offense, I really think they're going to use guys like John Mechie and Tank Dell to play more on the sweep. It's going to be real gadgety at certain points, especially once you get into the red zone. So I don't like that touchdown line at all. I think his touchdowns will be low, but I think his passing yards will be fine.
I really like
Puka as well. Puka, what's his name? What was his? How do you pronounce his last name? Nagata, not Nagata, Naguda, wide receiver. I believe Michigan State.
Puka Nakua?
Yeah, Nakua.
From BYU?
BYU, yeah. They also added him, I'm pretty sure, late in the draft.
I like the Xavier Hutchins pick from Iowa State. I thought he was a better receiver, but Tank Dell was technically a CJ Stroud pick. We saw a report that after they made the call, he said, like, if y'all can, give me my boy, because they really linked up whenever they met up together. I'm looking at the roster right now. I love the addition of Singletary. I like how y'all got Dalton Schultz, because I said earlier in the show, the best thing you can do for a young quarterback is to give him a reliable slot receiver who will catch the ball and a tight end, because a lot of times quarterback, when they're under fire, when they feel the pressure, they look for their open guy, and more often than not, it's the guy on those short reads. I think the Texans have quietly built up a solid offensive line. Tunsil and Howard, I think, are two of them, probably the most underrated in terms of tackle pairs. Love the Shaq Mason addition. Juice Scruggs is a nasty mauler at center. We'll see how it does in pass protection. I wasn't too impressed in pass protection, but he's a great run blocker. And then Kenyon Green going into year 2, we'll see how he does. He wasn't great his rookie year. Even Louis would admit he was like, he didn't perform to expectations, but I think playing on a more complete offensive line like this should help at least his confidence.
Yeah.
I like having Singletary and Pierce in the backfield. That's a great running backfield to have. It's great to take the pressure off of Stroud. Stroud at Ohio State, and this is like what I saw in his game film. When he was at his best, his receivers were getting open, and he played off rhythm. He's a rhythm quarterback. When he gets one pass completed, he gets the next one, the next one, the next one. His issue, and this is what hurts a lot of quarterbacks, is that like when things go wrong, he collapses a little bit, and that would start to affect his confidence. I think because he has a better offensive line, I think he has receivers that can get open. I didn't mind the Robert Woods pick. I like John Mechie as a guy along with Dell that can come in as a 3rd and 4th receiver, because I would like Dell as a separation artist. I think Stroud, just based on like who they're going to play, I think I can't see them winning more than 9 games this year. I could see them winning 9. I just do it. Especially like because I just respect the hell out of DeMeco Ryans. I don't think they win less than 4. I think 5 to 9 wins might be realistic in terms of CJ Stroud's first year. I really like what they did on defense. I like the Tua pick. I love the Will Anderson trade up to get. Malik Collins has found second life with them. They added Denzel Perriman. Christian Harris was a nice pickup for him last year.
Didn't they get Jimmy Ward too?
Yep.
They had Jimmy Ward.
Petrie, Derek
pair him with Petrie. Yeah, Petrie was like one of the better rookie defenders last year. Great pickup.
Just one thing I'm going to add in here, because this is like one thing that I like about the way the Texans have built the roster, is every rookie has a successful vet to learn from. Yep. So Stingley has Nelson. Petrie now has Ward. They brought in Singletary for Pierce. Like every time they see that value, they bring in a guy to help develop. So
Yeah,
I
good
really
mentor system.
Yeah, I really like the way they've set it up, and I think it provides good. Like they're trying to take pressure off of Stroud in that system, and I think they've built the roster in a way that can do that. Other than I don't love wide receiver one. Like I don't think Nico Collins is a one.
Nope.
I know Texans fans love him. I had high hopes for him. I just haven't seen it, and I know Davis Mills is gonna impede that progress. But you can't tell me you're going into a season with three basically in Mechie and Tank Dell and then Xavier Hutchinson and feel good that Robert Woods is probably your wide receiver one.
You know what Collins, Mechie, and Dell all have in common? Is they all are able to create separation off the line of scrimmage. And then a lot of times with quarterbacks, like I said earlier, they will go with their first read, and you need guys who can break off separation off that first level. If your guys can't create separation, they won't be able to depend on them. That's why I like the Dalton Schultz pickup, just because he's a guy who can create separation. He ain't the fastest guy in the world, but I saw him play his entire career at Dallas. That's one thing he's able to do. He's able to create separation off that second level and get up for the quarterback. He's a security blanket, which you really love to have as a quarterback, which is why they have a lot of those receivers. Sorry, I'm getting tongue-tied. Receivers who can break off the line of scrimmage. And that's why I don't think this offense has a ton of upside, because I don't think y'all have, no offense, I don't think y'all have like that number one true receiver. We'll see about John Mechie, because I like Mechie's upside. You know, it's going to be interesting to see how he comes back after beating cancer, so I can't knock the guy out just yet. And I think, you know, in an AFC South, which, you know, aside from the Jags is full of, you know, we have no ideas, you know, I think they have the potential to be the second best team in that division.
Yeah. And Sasha, I like this comment too. I like all of that. It is going to be a new playbook this year, offensive wise. But you're right. He's prototypical size. When I did my research on Nico for an article we wrote a while back, he never has been a one. He wasn't a one at Michigan. He played behind Donovan Peoples-Jones. He's never put up more than 1,000 yards in any season, not college, not NFL. So, you know, expecting him just because he's got the build to be able to make that leap, I just don't see it for him. I think he's a good depth piece. I don't think he ever is like a bench player. Right. I just don't think he's like that guy.
No.
He's like an average level starter. Good wide receiver 3, wide receiver 2.
Wide receiver 1 gets hurt and you need that big boundary guy.
Yeah.
You know, that's where that value is, but he's not like a first round pick kind of receiver talent that you want.
I'll tell you what though, depending on how well the Texans are as we get to the halfway point of the season and the trade deadline comes up, if they're like, let's say 5-3 right before the trade deadline, and Stroud is doing better than expected, the offense moving the ball, defense playing well, they just need that number one true guy to help them give them on a run. You know, the Jaguars came out late run and they added Calvin Ridley knowing he was more of a long-term piece. Maybe there's a receiver in the NFL on a team that's going to be a losing team that is ready to trade a player. Watch the Bucks. What are they going to do with Godwin? What are they going to do with Evans? They're about to go into rebuild mode. If the Texans are in that position, just because I think that their schedule is going to be kind of favorable, and C.J. Stroud plays above expectations, maybe they go after a guy who can take the top off. Maybe.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. If only we had DeAndre Hopkins.
Yeah,
that'd be nice.
Or Brandon Cooks.
Thank you.
I don't know why why that happened.
Because they're rebuilding.
I get it. I don't know. Just maybe
you were going to get more value trading Cooks for anything than you were just trying to move either Collins or Mechie for what was going to be, you know, a 2024 7th round pick.
So
maybe you don't move them and you have Cooks there for like help develop Stroud a little bit more and give him just one more option. I don't know. That's just a quick thought there. Louis, what were you going to say?
So I really want to talk about the Eagles draft class. We talked about this in the chat before.
All right. Mm-hmm. Word. Let's get that in, and then that'll be that for the night.
I need someone to sell me on why this was like a great draft for them. Like I understand, because what I'm feeling like, I'm looking at it, this is like couch GM, auto draft fantasy kind of stuff. Like, oh, they picked everybody's favorite prospects, but there was a key moment in the Super Bowl where Quez Watkins drops a pass. They did not address their receiver depth at all. And if you're building long-term around Jalen Hurts, I think they've got some older pieces on that line. I thought they were in a great spot to take some offensive tackles, and they didn't do it. Osiris Torrance fell there at the end. I was surprised he didn't come up at that 30 spot. I know he's really happy about that. So I'm just like, I understand the value. Like Jalen Carter's the best player in the draft, arguably. But I mean, it felt like the wrong side of the ball.
Okay. So if you want me to sell you on it, I can. Just based on positional value, right? Just I have my draft rankings. They got my number 1 defensive tackle, my number 3 edge. They got my number 3 safety and Sidney Brown. Keely Ringo, I think, is in a position where he ain't got to start right away because I don't think he's a day 1 starter. I think he's a starter down the line potentially because he has the intangibles for it. If Tyler Steen, the only position he could probably compete for is with Cam Jurgens at that right guard spot because they lost Isaac Siamalu in free agency. And I actually like the Moro Ojomo pick. I had him as pegged as a 4th, 5th rounder, as like a pass rushing rotational 3-tech guy. They got him in the 7th round. I hated the Tanner McKee pick. I didn't have him in my top 12 quarterbacks. I'm not a fan of his at all. But I think they lost a lot of starters on defense. They're going to rely more on these rookies, and how they play is going to dictate how well this season goes. Because last year, Jordan Davis, great pickup. He didn't do much in terms of splash projection. They got Nakobe Dean, I think a 1st-round linebacker last year, got him a 3rd. He didn't really do much either. They got most of their production from their veteran starters and the guys they got in free agency. They didn't get a lot of production from the rookies. This year, they're going to have to rely on the rookies a little bit more to play. So I can't really sell you on them being a better team, but I can definitely sell you on the value of their draft picks.
Yeah. It feels like they really looked at, okay, we lost because of a coin flip, kind of the field. So we're just going to put the same team back together and run it back, and it's going to work this year.
See, I don't think so, because if even a pick, like, forget about Jalen Carter and Nolan Smith right now. Forget about that. The 2 of the best values in possibly the whole draft. Forget about it. You get Keely Ringo, and if this is preseason before this past college football season, Keely Ringo is a top 3 cornerback prospect.
Yeah,
he has
but
all the traits.
Such a bad season.
I understand that. The Eagles have a good cornerback room with good mentors. The traits are there. If he develops into a, hopefully, I think he can develop into a plus starter. If he does that by the playoffs, you have Keely Ringo in there instead of maybe James Bradbury. I personally think that's a little bit higher of an upside player there. Sidney Brown, I had him very closely ranked. Brian Branch is my top safety on the board.
I like Sidney a lot.
I don't think he's as no, he's more explosive athletically, but I just don't think he's as big as Branch, but he does a lot of the same things just as well. So they got him another great value. And these are 2 things that they desperately needed.
Well, they have a new offensive coordinator too.
And defensive coordinator.
New defensive coordinator. So to me, I struggle.
I get what you're saying.
I struggle with the depth of the team. Every year, I feel like there's a team that's like stacked across the board at starters, and then you look at their next the next player down. Like that receiving core, AJ Brown, Devonta Smith, awesome wide receiver 1 and wide receiver 2. But if either of those guys can't play a game, who is Jalen throwing to? Like Dallas Goedert's a good tight end, but I just think it's really shallow, and that makes a really hard run for this offensive coordinator that has to come in and live up to these standards. So Jalen can run. You're right. So there's always that portion of it. I just think. Yeah, I think they're going to try the exact same thing as last year and just be slightly less effective at it. But
all right, so this is the last thing we're going to get to. We're running a little late, and next week we will continue our rankings and kind of continue with the rest of our show sheet. It's okay. First episode with 4 hosts kind of got a little bit away from us. We will, adjust accordingly. But Bahuki, here's your time to shine on James Cook.
Yeah, last little closing segment here. There's a reason we let Devin Singletary go, and that's because we have who we believe is going to be our running back 1 in James Cook, and he was really starting to come on last year. We played in like a sub-zero game. There was like that Arctic freeze across like all of North America during Christmas weekend, and we were up in Chicago, and we had both Singletary and James Cook go for 100 yards and a touchdown that day, and that was the game when I was like, okay, I can get behind this guy, and he's got everything you look for in a running back. I'd like to see him maybe put on another 15 pounds. I know that he's obviously got the genetics that Dalvin Cook has, and I would like to see him put on some of that Dalvin size. But Georgia running backs have a really strong history in the NFL. And in addition to him, we got Damian Harris now as our straight ahead up between the tackles guy. We just signed Latavius Murray yesterday,
that.
who's like 33, but getting him for pennies on the dollar, and he's really big and really fast for how big he is, and is really good on those short yardage plays, so we can take some of the pressure off of Josh Allen, and we have a fourth running back, Nyheim Hines, who's a Swiss Army knife and can return punts for you, can be lined up in the slot and run gadget plays, can run routes, can be used on third down in passing situations, and we got Osiris Torrance in the second round. I was kind of upset we didn't get him in the first round, but clearly Brandon Bean is a better GM than I would be.
Good stuff there.
But
Good
anyways,
stuff.
That's my quick take on that.
Word. All right. Last thing here, Aaron. The Kittle jersey was won by @FranchiseTagUK. @FranchiseTagUK won the Kittle jersey. I will connect with him after the show, and we will send that out to you as soon as I can get it out to you. But yeah, that is pretty much our show. We ran a little late tonight. Thank you for everybody who's listened, commented, shared it, watched us. Tune in next week for all our NFL takes. Who knows? You might just see Louis' 11th toe. If you weren't here for the beginning, that might be really weird. It's okay.
Well, little bonus con.
Yeah, you gotta go back and watch from the beginning all the way to this. Don't skip any of the parts. Just it's definitely worth it. So yeah, follow us at Lamb4752, at StadiumRant HQ, at Bahuki Montana, at Shane Carter TX, at the Louis Stewart 503, or the L Stewart 503. Sorry,
I'll get it in there next week.
Yeah, next week you'll have it in there, so you guys can just see it. You won't have to listen to it. But yeah, thank you guys for watching, and everybody have a good night.